I'm really privileged to speak today and humbled by some of the other people that will be talking. And I was trying to think, how can I link my own experiences to this very important subject? And I often find myself these days being referred to as a bit of a dot-com dinosaur. So I was thinking about that, and I was thinking, I can't believe it's 10 years ago at the end of this year that we started lastminute.com. And I was thinking it's quite important to maybe think back to what the environment was like then, and some of the things that made us feel so energized to be working in the internet, and therefore why it's so important to keep preserving it. So there are three reasons that I was thinking that made me feel very energized every day I jumped out of bed for lastminute.com. The first one, I guess, was the global potential of the web. And a story that I heard really early on in my days in the internet always made me think about how incredible it was that this was a network that really could speak across countries. And it was an anecdote from my consulting days about some Korean school kids that had cottoned onto the fact that they were not only a lot brighter than the school kids in many other bits of the world, but also suffered or benefited from a time delay. And they had offered their services, particularly to children in Australia who were doing similar but more basic coursework to them. And they would send questions to these children in Korea, who would then post the answers overnight back to them on the internet. And these children in Australia were suddenly getting phenomenally good results in their schools. And I always thought that's very enterprising on many levels. And really, that early story about the global potential of the web stuck with me for a long time. The second thing that the web is absolutely about is disruption. And I think that probably lastminute.com knows quite a lot about that. You know, we were quite disruptive in a small sphere, the travel industry, but we certainly struggled to make ourselves known and to change the dynamics of that particular industry. You know, when we started out, the process of buying a ticket at short notice was pretty complicated. Either you had to go and sit for hours in a travel agent on your high street, or you'd have to make a telephone call and spend hours on the telephone, ringing availability for different hotels, all of these things. So we were trying to disrupt in a small way the travel industry. On a perhaps more grandiose level, there were amazing companies doing disruptive things back in '97. You know, Yahoo was disrupting the way that you looked for information. Amazon was completely disrupting the way that you bought books. And it was a very exciting time, and I think that disruption is something that we shouldn't forget was one of the reasons that a lot of people like me were attracted to the internet in its early days. The final thing that I feel very passionate about is innovation. And the web came out of many people innovating on many different levels and spheres. And it's very important, I think, for a healthy and diverse and exciting economy, but society more importantly, that we encourage innovation, that we encourage young people, that we encourage people with crazy ideas. We haven't been very good at it historically here in the UK. We've been quite good at having ideas, but very bad at commercializing them. But I think that that's improving slowly. But the thing that I took most pleasure in at lastminute.com was the technology team. It was really Brent's baby, my co-founder, but actually the thing where the most amazing magic happened. And quite often you walk around late at night and there would be these guys sitting at their desks doing incomprehensible and incomparable code, and we'd walk around and then suddenly some incredible new piece of functionality would appear on the site. It was always those bits of magic and those bits of innovation that really made it feel all worthwhile and exciting. So those things were very important to us in those early days: the global potential of the web, the disruptive nature of it, and its innovation and encouraging that innovation. 10 years on, not so much has changed, but I think the thing that has happened, perhaps in a different way to how certainly I anticipated back in '97, is really the power of the individual. You know, even with lastminute.com, it was basically a broadcast from us to our customers. You know, buy these products, they're cheap. Even now, if you were starting an e-commerce site, it's different. The power lies much more with the user, which is a very interesting and exciting, if subtle, shift. And I think this is happening on three different levels, really. It's happening on a social level. If I look at my friends now in London, there's really no shame in going onto any number of dating websites, My Single Friend to name but one, and to be able to plug into networks that maybe you can't build in the real world as easily as you can online. There's many sites that all of you will be familiar: Bebo, MySpace, Facebook, hundreds of different sites now that are building social networks in different ways, but all of them giving the power back to the user. The second area is corporates, users versus corporations. And this is an area that I think is hugely important and just beginning. Now when I go on to lastminute.com to book a hotel, although I trust the judgment of that fabulous company 90%, I also go on to TripAdvisor and I see what real users have said about the hotel, and I'm looking at real pictures of that hotel, and that's a big shift. It means that you can't really believe the marketing hype of businesses anymore. There's real potential for individuals to tell you the truth about what corporations are telling you, and that's only beginning to be tapped into, I think. The final sphere is politically. And, this has been happening in a more advanced way, I think, in the US for a long time, with sites like the Huffington Post really beginning now to set the political agenda. But even here, just this morning, I signed up to another e-petition. I think Downing Street must be getting sick of seeing my name on all these different e-petitions, but that's a very powerful tool. And again, being able to mass together like-minded groups of interest, just as this campaign has done, and effectively have a voice, is a way that I think maybe back in '97 we'd underestimated how much and how often this would be used. So the landscape certainly looks a bit different to '97. Things always turn out slightly more interestingly than you imagine, but the fundamentals are still there, that the tool that is the internet is incredible and powerful, and the stats just continue to blow me away. There are 196 million registered users for Skype, an internet telephony technology. And I only mention that because that's still a relatively geeky product, and yet 196 million people are using it every single day. 24% of all shopping last Christmas was done online. And there are now more people watching things via the web than there are watching television around the world. And that statistic continues to amaze me. I find it extraordinary that just today I can sit down at my computer, open it up, read all the news that I want to online. I can see blogs, I can see broadsheets, I can see Google alerts, I can get all of this information delivered in the way that I would like it. I can then go and do all my shopping. As you can see with a stick, it's not easy to be in shops, so I do all my grocery shopping, all my pharmaceutical shopping, everything. I then actually went to Walking Sticks to You, my new favourite site, picked up a rather snazzy new walking stick. Then I closed down all the shopping and I did a bit of research for my boyfriend, who's a very keen fisherman, about what the weather's going to be like when he goes up to fish in a river in Scotland next weekend. Then I looked at my godson on YouTube dancing, which had been posted by his mother and father last night. This is all absolutely real. I thought I must tell you this because it still continues to astonish me. Then I signed up a campaign that my father had sent me to keep classics alive in schools, which is a subject he's very close to and what I studied myself. Then I went on channel4.com and read about what was happening. I'm on the board with the Diana programme that we're screening tonight. And then I came and I made some notes about my talk this evening and looked up some stats online. And then I sat back and I thought, that's really all I maybe need to tell you. That I, one person, can do all those things in the space of a few hours and have my life completely transformed, quite apart from the fact that I feel like I benefit from the web in a way that many, many, many people would never have imagined possible, both financially and professionally and so on. But just the daily impact still continues to astound me. And if for no other reason, that is something worth protecting. Of course, freedom of expression and all of the other important human rights issues should be layered on top of that. But at the very basic level, I feel so honoured to have had that and those technologies in my life, and that's something that I think we should all be optimistic about, and we should all continue to battle for everybody around the world. Thank you.